Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. PK, it feels like fall. The Fall Classic, the World Series. Okay, well, baseball playoffs have really grown. So, baseball playoffs, then eventually the World Series. And college football conference games. The NFL, still warming up, still in the first third of the season. But here comes the association, the NBA. Are you ready?
I'm not ready, but I anticipate it. I could wait 3-4 weeks. They talk about how season doesn't really start in earnest until Christmas, which I think is dumb. I totally disagree with that. It's like I hate this saying, well, the playoffs don't start until somebody wins on the home court, the visiting team. No, that's not true. It starts from game one. Everything starts. So I think the NBA comes upon us, probably doesn't get as much oomph as a lot of the other sports when their season starts because of the fact that it's a crowded calendar. And I think October's the best sports month of the year.
But that's because of the crowded calendar?
Yeah. And so be it. I've surprising myself, I literally watch nothing else now, and it has been for a while, sports. And I watch a lot of sports. But I used to have shows going back in the 80s.
Not anymore.
A few shows, whatever you'd watch, I'd like them.
Yeah.
In the 90s. And
you watched Cheers and the Seinfeld and all the stuff everybody else watched.
Yeah.
Because you'd go into the paper the next day and everybody be talking about whatever the funny line was.
Yeah, and I'd watch Everybody Loves Raymond, and what's the other one?
When my wife and I stream shows. Yeah. Oh, King of Queens?
King of Queens, yeah, because Italian guys, New York.
Right,
yeah. I'd watch those.
But when my wife and I stream shows now, we stream them in the summer. You get to this time of year, once the basketball starts filling in the weekdays, it's for the job. Like, you do Diamondbacks, and that's your passion. That's your fun, and you know that you got a sister, or maybe two, maybe both of them, but certainly one of them, tracking those games.
Yeah.
And that's a sport you played in high school. But think about what it's going to be this winter when, for the job, you got to watch Jazz games. For the job, well, you better watch BYU basketball, especially now, right? But the Utes, the Aggies, you got the Utah Hockey Club. How many nights are there going to be? The Mountain West plays one night. The Big 12 plays another night. The hockey's going to play 3 times a week. The NBA 3 or 4 times a week. There's always going to be a game.
Right. It's a lot of sports viewing. I consider myself fortunate that that's something that I can draw a paycheck from. But at no point, though, even when I was way into sports, and I've been, before I did the radio, obviously I was a sports writer for many years, I still had some shows. But I've basically sworn off. You can ask me anything. What's hot on Tuesday? I got no idea now.
No, I don't either.
And it wasn't like that.
I think of nights, Monday Night Football, 2 games in the case of, some weeks here in the NFL season. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was TNT, and then you get into the weekend, there's always going to be games on Friday. So Tuesday and Wednesday, you might not have games to watch. But I think with the Jazz and the Utah Hockey Club, and with the Mountain West now always plays early in the week, we're always going to have games. Once that gets rolling, And today is Media Day.
I looked forward to see what quandary Dr. Huxtable was going to solve.
Oh, yeah. There were quandaries, to be sure. Those kids, those precocious kids.
But at the same time, I'm excited for the season to start.
That's an excellent question.
I am.
How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are people for the start of this season?
I'm extremely excited. Now, the end of the season is another story. But for the start of the season, and we're talking specifically about the Jazz because today's Jazz Media Day, and we'll have all the coverage right here on the KSL Sports Zone. And yes, I could argue that in terms of questions that you want answered, or at least on the way to being answered, they have not had a season in which they have as many questions that you want answered this very season. Think about it. In the 90s, what questions did they had?
Can they win it all?
But there wasn't individual questions.
That was the question.
Yeah.
Oh, there'd be one new guy. What's this guy's role going to be?
Yeah, but everybody has that.
But now you got a bunch of new guys because we're curious about how the rookies make the transition to the league, and we're curious about how the second-year guys take a big step forward. And it's on all of them to their own level. And we don't have all NBA expectations for these guys. For some guys, the question is, well, can you find a way to stay in the league? For another guy, it's can you find a way to stay in a rotation? For another guy, can you start?
And there's another fellow that doesn't fall under the category of rookie or first year.
Walker Kessler.
What's it going to be, son? What are you going to be? What do you want to be with your NBA career? Are you one of these dudes who plays the game because you're tall and your family played it, and I think your uncle played in the NBA and all that stuff? Alec, I
Or
think
is
his
there
name
a
was.
driving
Yeah.
passion, and
Yeah.
we're going to see a big step forward?
Right. What's it going to be? That's one massive question right off the bat.
You can't have potential forever. At some point,
Yeah.
you've got to be fulfilling it.
Yeah.
And for some of the guys, certainly for Gordon Hayward and for Rudy Gobert and for Donovan Mitchell, they all came in. They all had to do things. You could argue two of them were projects. One of them certainly was. Gobert obviously was, but I think Hayward was too. He had to get bigger and all that. Mitchell hit the ground running. But with all of them, you could see them, okay, they've added this, they've added that, they've gotten better at this, they've gotten better at that. You could see the progression. And with Mitchell, pretty quickly, it was like, well, he's got to add a step-back three off the dribble. Right? We're not really getting to the basics. But he added it. I remember talking about it in the summer, and in the fall, step-back three into a dribble. He's making himself unguardable.
Yeah. And what's it going to be? To start with the second-year guys. Those dudes, massive questions. And then you can even argue beyond that. What is Colin Sexton? He's an NBA player, but where do you fit on the food chain in the rotation? Are you a foundation piece? Because right now, they really, going forward, they only have one foundation piece that's proven.
Lowry Markkanen.
That's it. And, Clarkson, but I don't expect him to be here when the team gets really good. And I say when, not if. Because I think they'll get it done. I don't know how long.
Clarkson is 32. His future is right now.
Yeah. And so I put those guys off to the side. What is Sexton somebody on a 50-win team getting 25 to 30 minutes a game? Whether he's starting or off the bench doesn't really matter. But what is your spot on a winning team? Because you've not played on a winning team. You've been in the league now a number of years.
Still hasn't been in a playoff game like Markkanen.
Right. Yeah. To me, Markkanen has proven it, given the fact that he's 7 feet. If he was 6 feet, maybe I'd have a different opinion of him. I probably would. But I think that, to me, he's a commodity that's well known. Sexton is a little undersized. What's it going to be? And so how are you going to show what you do and how you belong? You're all sorts of energy. And I enjoy watching you play.
But it has to translate to wins.
Yeah, and how does that fit into the concept of winning? And then Hendricks, as athletic as can be, but that's great.
But you can't disappear into the game.
Yeah.
You got your will. You have to enforce your will on the game. I'm going to the hoop, and nobody can stop me.
Yeah.
And you got to have enough of a perimeter game that they can't sag off you 10 feet and play the drive.
Especially in today's game.
Yep.
And defensively, what did you do over the summer? Because summer is your lab time. And no one's watching you in terms of the public and the media and all. But how do you get yourself better?
Yep.
How do you get your body better? You look at what Malone did. You can criticize failures in a postseason and all, but clearly the dude worked. You don't get to be walking into the gym before you even put up a shot. And then you look at his free throw percentage, how it improved. And how does that improve? By work. This is their work, literally. And so what are you doing there? Sensabaugh, you got a nice body. What can you do? Can you make a move? And Keontae George, you showed us a lot. And the Summer League was a waste of time for you because you were better. Now, are you ready to take that next step? It wouldn't be beyond the realm to have somebody like him take that next step and be really good, right? He's got the skill set. What's it going to do? What's it going to be? And then the rooks. There's 3 question marks there, and they're all potential. Filipowski kicked butt in Vegas. All right, this is a kid who's got a skill set. 2nd-round pick, 1st-round pick, doesn't matter. Collier, horrible situation at SC. What are you going to do now? Cody Williams, man, everybody wanted him. I must have started. I talked about him in November?
We had a conversation about that. I was talking about, all right, you, from your days as a college basketball beat writer, you get way into the college. You don't like the recruiting, but as soon as they're on campus, you want to know a lot about them. And that was one of the guys we talked about. I watched him all season because when I asked you, that was who you brought up.
Yeah, a Phoenix kid.
Yeah.
Had heard about him, his brother, NBA. And I think at the spot you had to draft, you got the guy you wanted. All right, well, what are you going to do? You're a young pup, so I'm not going to go nuts. But I want to see something, man. I want to see something that I can draw some positivity. This team has so many intriguing questions that I'm excited to follow it. I realize if they're losing 8 out of 10 on a road trip and whatever, in a home stance, you won't have 10 road games. But we get to the end of January, and their win-loss total really sucks. That can be a drag. But we're not at that point yet. We'll see where that goes.
No, and the win-loss total might not be a drag, and then Danny Ainge could look at it and say, well, it's basically fool's gold. You're beating bad teams, and you're beating teams that aren't playing their star players. He's thought that a couple years in a row now.
But that was with more veteran dudes. This year, depending on how they play,
there's a chance
it
that
won't
they
matter
could
that
run
much.
Not just a starting 5,
Yeah.
but a rotation out that's very young.
Yeah, and so who cares who the other guy
Right.
is?
And the guys who are older on this team, are they here all season? Are they here half of the season? Is there an early season trade? And some of that's probably dependent on what happens with injuries to contenders around the league. So we'll have to figure that part out.
Yeah, and that's a separate set of intrigue.
Right. What happens with Collins?
Because we don't really know.
Right.
We know we've got these dudes on the team, and now what are they going to do? We don't know who's going to be available on the team, on who's available for you to bring in.
What happens with Clarkson? What happens with Collins? And if they are moved, who's coming back? I mean, they've still got a ton of assets. Is there going to be some drama and there's going to be some big trade in the middle of the season? Time
There's
will
got to
tell.
be something. They just can't keep drafting guys for the next 7 or 8 years. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be
Right.
something.
Yeah. Well, I think they don't know either. I mean, the
Donovan
drama,
Mitchell demands coming back to Utah.
that seems pretty unlikely.
Signs here as a free agent
That's really unlikely.
because I know he re-upped, but
Yeah. Goes all James Harden and demands a trade.
who knows? It seems like every other player who left here realized it's pretty sweet.
The 2 guys to really watch, though, Cody Williams and Taylor Hendricks.
Okay. Well, they're both their number 1 picks. They're highest picks of the 6 guys.
And they've got the size, which is why they go earlier. And when you look at the All-NBA teams, how far can you go in the playoffs? That one of the top 15 guys in the league. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think, is listed at 6'6". Ant-Man 6'4". That's like the low end of being a dominant player. Most of these guys, they're 6'8" to 7 feet. So who's got the size to do it? Now, they may not have the body to do it. They're still young. Hendricks has obviously had more time to build his body up. I don't think Cody Williams weighs 200 pounds yet. I suspect he will.
I wonder how much bigger they want him. You can be stronger, but do you want bigger?
Hey, Kevin Durant, right?
We all go to him.
Yeah. Well, he's the obvious case. It was such a big deal when he came out. Before we knew he'd be Kevin Durant. I mean, he was the number 2 pick. He was expected to be good.
Garnett. I don't think Kobe got necessarily bigger.
Kobe was pretty cut and pretty strong. But you're right, not massive.
Right.
Not, I mean, to go back to Karl Malone getting off the bus, you
Right.
know, you don't have to be.
He came into the league with a lot of measurables.
Yeah.
And then honed his game through his work ethic. That's
But
how
you can still get big through the arms and the shoulders without putting on a lot of weight.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah, just which you ought to just do naturally maturing.
That happens.
Yeah. So what do they do? Hendricks, if he spends any time in the minor league, that seems silly. Williams. I would love to see those guys get an opportunity to prove it early, and then if they're not worthy of it, make the adjustment rather than go down at the start, and then we'll bring you up later.
It will be intriguing with Filipowski. I don't see him as going to that star level, but you can never have enough big guys who can play. Now, there'll be more size and athleticism, obviously in the regular season and in Summer League, but he really did look good in Summer League.
In Vegas.
Yes.
Not here.
No. Had to get through the first couple, but that's what Summer League is for, shakedown cruises like that. Obviously, the bar will be higher. There'll be more 7-footers on the floor and all that kind of stuff.
Right. But where does he fit in? He's got a skill set that should allow him to be on a roster. As I look at it, I'm surprised he went as late as he did. But nevertheless, that doesn't matter now. That's like a high school ranking for the stars. When you come in, it's everybody starts.
But no matter how excited you get, young guys don't win in the league.
Oh, it's not about winning.
Yeah, I know. Filipowski's 20, Taylor Hendricks is 20, Keontae George is 20, Cody Williams is 19.
Right.
Colin Sexton's the old man at 25.
No,
but I do think that's one thing with him is like, okay, I know you can score. I know you're fast. I know you change ends of the floor. I know you're a ball of energy. But in the last 5 minutes of close games, how good are you?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Where does he fit in on the food chain of success in the NBA? I don't know. I want to find out. They want to find out. Yeah. They need to find out. If you're going to lose, have it be great times of discovery. And this league is not set up for youngsters to win. Never really has. Don't know that it ever will be, because you're dealing in that is a physical contact sport with some grown men there and they know what they're doing. So I get that it won't be a lot of winning. I've accepted that, and eventually that probably will wear me down.
Because it wears everybody down.
But we're not at that point now. We're not even close to that point. And yeah, when we get to February, end of February, when we just get the season over and let's make some moves. Maybe we'll be surprised. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, by then maybe hockey will be a big story. We'll see if they're chasing a playoff berth. BYU getting ready for March Madness.
I'm not worried about occupying my time. There'll be stuff. We all adjust. But, do they have a Rookie of the Year candidate? Because name me an overwhelming candidate right now. I don't know that you can. There's no Big Vic out there. Next year, it'll be Flag. Yeah. I was listening to Kevin Garnett the other day talking about Flag. And he was with somebody. I forget who he was with, but it was a name known. And the guy did say, and Garnett was giving Flag all sorts of accolades, joking him about, hey man, you don't see white boys like that, blah, blah, blah. You got to go down that line. But they don't. It's harmless when they say that. It's not anything that needs to be taken as a slur or what have you. It's just it's unusual in a league that is dominated by African Americans. We get all that, but none of that matters either. You don't get any points because of who you are. You get points of how you play. And the person that he was doing the podcast with, and I can't remember who it was now, did say if you draft in the top 5, you should get a very, very good player this year. Speaking of this 25 draft. So if that's the case, going back
be
to
bad.
the losing, yeah.
Be bad unless you get the chance to make the blockbuster. But don't be 33 and 49, please. Drafting 9th.
Well, if you do
8th,
that,
9th because of the conveyance. Yeah.
You better be on the heels of and the strength of all the young dudes. I can probably accept that.
Yeah, okay. If the 19 and 20-year-olds are doing it.
Yeah. Versus the older guys.
And probably the 25-year-old in Sexton. It's hard to believe they would do that without him doing something.
Understood. But if you
as opposed
move
to
the other guys,
Jordan Clarkson, who's 32, John Collins, who is 27,
right,
they'll feel a little bit fool's gold and wasted opportunity if it's on their shoulders.
So there's a lot to look forward to, even in a losing situation. A lot of discovery to be had, and from that, I have a level of excitement.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
It's official. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, is your official radio home of the Utah Hockey Club. When the puck hits the ice this fall, you'll hear every goal, every check, and every tension-filled moment right here on the Zone. Your exclusive home of the NHL and the Utah Hockey Club in Utah is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest, and then go ahead and listen every Thursday afternoon to the good guys, JJ and Alex, for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, and it is sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals.
DJ and PK, we're broadcasting live. We're at the Jazz practice facility, the Zions Bank Basketball Center. Media Day today. Press conference is about to begin momentarily. We'll have them for you here throughout the morning on the Zone. Players are posing for photos and signing, putting their autograph on basketballs when they're not doing interviews. It all starts here. A rite of passage, PK.
Yeah, we've been doing this for many, many years, and, you know, I say this every year, the basketball season sort of sneaks up on you because we've got all sorts of stuff going on the sports calendar right now, obviously with football and everything else. But I have to say, every year when we walk in this gym or over at the practice facility and you see the guys, Collins is right over here doing it, Kessler's over there to the left, Saul Marketing, you get a level, at least I do, of excitement that, okay, it's time to get going now. Off season is just about over. And the good thing about the NBA preseason, it's over in a snap. It doesn't just go on and on like some of these other preseasons do. And you can get right at it, you know, and that's fun. And to think that basketball is going to be here just about, 2 weeks? 3 weeks before it's really getting going, the games matter and count and all that stuff. I have a level of excitement each time I come in here, and I anticipate the start of other seasons, but this season sneaks up on you. But then once we get here, it's like, all right, now it's time to go.
Football just blots out everything. I like what they've done with the basketball preseason, though, shorten it.
Oh,
Remember
big time.
There used to be like 8 games.
Yeah.
I did like when they go up to Boise and Albuquerque and places that never get to see an NBA game. I don't need preseason games here in Utah. We're going to get 41 regular season games.
But do the players need more road trips?
No, they don't. Just because I like it doesn't mean they like it. I get that.
Yeah, they don't
they
need
used
any
to
more
do
of that.
camp in Boise, so then they were already
They did
there.
in Albuquerque, they did St. George. It was all for the dealerships, I think, with
Yeah.
the prior ownership. But I get that they don't need all that. But, yeah, football. And plus it's summer, too, and your mind is occupied with other stuff. And you're looking forward to a camping trip or whatever it might be. We all know about that. And so now that that's all done with and over, it's time to get going with hoop. And obviously we'll talk about hoop extensively. And you just heard us talk about it leading up to this. There's so many intriguing stories. You know, it's not a team that's going to go deep in the playoffs most likely. But that doesn't mean there's not storylines. And my business that I got into a long time ago, back when they used to send out the newspapers via telegram. You know, that's how long it was.
That doesn't even make sense. Two old technologies that
think of
lots of
something
people don't know
you
about.
did on typewriters.
What's
and,
a telegram? A telegram.
So I got into this business because of stories. And this team, forget about winning. I don't know about it, but it has tons of storylines.
Here's Coach Will Hardy meeting with the media.
These last 2 seasons, I think, like the common, criticism or comment from fans is that the focus has changed kind of midway through. Do you feel like there is a kind of unified focus for this season in a different way?
Yeah, I think focus is number one, can change. I know from an organizational standpoint, like we've been aligned the entire time I've been here. The lines of communication between myself, Jay-Z, Danny, Ryan are wide open all day, every day. And it's on all of us to make decisions as we go to do what we think is best for the team at the time, obviously with the future in mind. Going into this season, I think our vision is very clear. This is an opportunity for us to really invest in our youth. We have 6 players that are 20 and under. If you add Walker, it's 7 guys 23 and under. We're really excited about all 7 of those players, and we need to invest in all of them and try to help them grow and develop, and at the same time try to learn about who they are now, and where we see each of them potentially going in the future, what they can grow into. There's a big difference, especially when you're a really young player, of what your identity is now and what it can turn into. And so we have to try to identify both right now. Obviously, Lowry, re-signing was a big deal for our program. He's an all-star level player. He's going to be an amazing leader for our team, a focal point for our team. And him, JC, Patty Mills, John Collins, like all those guys are going to really help these young players grow. But our goal every night is the same as it's always been. We're going to go out on the floor. We're going to try to represent ourselves, our organization, and our fan base by playing hard and passing. And the objective any night that we take the floor is to win.
Well, for some of those young guys, I think that it's fair to say that we'll learn more about who they are and kind of their baseline as the season progresses.
Right.
But we kind of have a good idea at this point of Walker and Keontae because of how many reps they've had. So with those 2 specifically in mind, what is success going to look like maybe on a night-to-night basis or maybe through that first part of the season?
I think the biggest sort of overall thing for both of them is going to be their consistency. I'm not overly focused on what their quote-unquote best is, what their best game is. I'm more interested in what is sort of the baseline that we can expect from both players on a night-to-night basis, because that's what this league is. Even the top players, you see, they'll have big outbursts in a massive game, but what separates the best players in this league from everybody else is that their floor is so much higher. Their average game is so much higher. And I think for Keontae and Walker, they each have experience under their belt now. And for them to sort of step into bigger roles for our team and our organization now and moving forward, it's going to be about their consistency night to night. And that's going to be in a lot of areas. It's not just how many points you score, how many rebounds you get, how many blocks you get. A lot of it is your poise, your kind of mental and emotional approach to every game, which it's hard, right? 82 games is a lot of times to kind of crank it up. But I think both of those guys understand that we're seeking a higher level of consistency from both of them. There's obviously plenty of technical basketball things that they've been working on that we want to see them improve in, but those all feed into that just general consistency of their approach and their performance each night.
What do you expect to see from the rookies this year?
That's a good question. For all of them, I expect sort of a normal entry into the NBA. It's hard. And I think all 3 of our rookies are capable of playing good basketball and contributing when they're on the court. It's on us as a staff to help them identify what their identity is right now. All 3 of them have shown a pretty high level of feel for young players. I think the thing that excites me the most about the 3 of them as a group is they can all pass. But I think for them, I expect they're going to come in eyes wide open. They're going to play really, really hard. They're going to have some level of failure at some point. Failure not meaning like catastrophic. It could be a bad game or a tough week, because the NBA is humbling. And I think what I want for all of them is to learn early in their career how to deal with a bad game or a bad couple of games, recenter themselves and get back to playing productive basketball. No one has a perfect season. I don't expect any of them to have a perfect career, but they need to learn now that it's not all about them. Every night's not going to be about you. Every game, you're not going to score as many points as you want or get the stats that you want. And there's going to be nights that you don't play great, but can you still contribute to the group?
You mentioned how Lowry's going to be a focal point for this team. With that in mind, how important was it to get his contract extended over the offseason and kind of have him here long term? I mean, does it create kind of a sense of stability that you can build around him and have him kind of be a leader for the long term and short term for the future?
Yeah, obviously signing a deal like that makes everything feel different, not just for us as an organization, but for Lowry. I think this gives Lowry a different sense of security for him and his family. But yeah, as the coach, when the best player on the team wants to be here, he wants to be in Utah, he believes in what we're doing. He and I have been able to build a really strong relationship over the last 2 years. It's big for us because it also helps our ecosystem function. There's no question when we take the floor at practice tomorrow who the best player on the team is, and there's responsibility that comes with that. Lowry is fully capable and ready for that, but him re-signing this summer was great for our team, sort of the psyche of the team and the group. But I think more than anything, it just shows that Lowry is committed to the Jazz, committed to Utah, and he really believes in what we're doing.
Quickly, two things. One, is everybody healthy? And then two, since you don't have the veteran depth you've had in years past going into the season, if the rookies have to play day one, are they prepared to do that, or are you prepared to do that?
Everybody is healthy, as far as I know. The rookies are prepared to play, for sure, as prepared as any rookie is to play. I think they all are extremely competitive and tough, and I do think that, like I said earlier about their feel, it helps them fit into the game. None of them will look out of place if they go into a game. I'm fully prepared to play them. I think we've shown as a staff over the last 2 seasons that we're not afraid to mix the lineups up and play groups together that maybe we hadn't considered before, maybe that the general public wouldn't consider. But that's our job. And, it's my job as the head coach to approach our team like I approach every team. Let's try to think about what they are now and try to put them in positions to be successful. But I am more than ready to play the rookies.
I'm going to read you back a quote from season before last.
From who?
From you.
Oh, good.
It was post-game in Portland.
Oh, here we go.
Drew has been a pain in my expletive for a long time.
Yeah.
Elaborate?
Drew Eubanks has been a pain in my blank for a long time. I was fortunate to coach Drew when he was a rookie, his first couple of years in the NBA. I say that all with love. He is a very endearing, tough, competitive, coachable, wonderful human being. It's not just about the basketball piece. He's the kind of person that you want around your organization, your locker room. He represents and exemplifies a lot of what we're trying to be as a team. The selflessness, the toughness, the competitiveness. Like any player, when you coach him a lot, Drew and I have had our moments where we've not seen things the same, but that's totally expected. I love giving Drew a hard time. He's a really, really special guy. I can't wait for our fans to get to know him. I can't wait for you guys to get to know him. But correct, he is a pain in the ass.
And kind of on the same token, you've known Patty for a very long time. And I'm wondering, is there comfort in the fact that he's here right now with you?
Absolutely. You know, Patty and I have known each other almost 15 years. We spent 10 years together in San Antonio. He's one of my favorite people, not just in the NBA, but on the planet. And there's a massive level of comfort that I get knowing that he's here. Our team needs some veteran leadership. We need some people to model behavior for the young players. We also need people that are going to fully give themselves to the group. And, you know, also Patty's an extrovert, and we have a team that has a lot of introverts on it. And I think that Patty's personality and energy is going to really help our locker room and help our team day to day. But I'm not shying away from the fact that Patty being here is also wildly comforting for me personally. And I plan on leaning on him a ton to try to help lead this group.
With Taylor and Bryce coming back, especially, we asked about Keontae already, but how have those guys' games and bodies changed since April 12th of last year?
Their games have both grown. They've gotten a lot more reps. They've been put in different positions. Obviously, the end of last season, they got a lot of playing time in the NBA. Both of them were starting for a majority of that. And I think that this summer has been good for them to go play summer league and to get the reps in the positions where they're making more decisions. When you're the quote unquote fifth option on the court, it's different. You're not making as many decisions. I think this summer was an uptick in their decision making, gives them a different perspective on where they need to go. They've both done a lot of work on the court. Their bodies are probably the part that they should be most proud of. For any player, any young player, the NBA is very unforgiving, but it's physically unforgiving. And everybody on our team knew they had a lot of work to do on their bodies, but everybody's goals were different. I think both Bryce and Taylor have taken that directive, and they've worked really hard this summer. Bryce has really leaned out. He's incredibly strong right now. He's moving great. I'm really proud of the work that he's done, and he should be, because he's the one that put in that effort every day. Taylor knew that getting in the weight room was going to be a big emphasis for him as he continues to grow as a player. The different matchups that he's going to face based on his body type and sort of what things we're going to try to do with him defensively. And as of a couple days ago, I believe Taylor had gained 21 pounds this summer from the end of the season. So, you know, both those guys, Keontae, Walker, they all deserve a lot of credit because they took the message for what it was. They didn't take it personally. And they spent the entire summer just doing the work. Little by little, they did the work, and we're showing up here to training camp, and all of them look great.
We talk a lot about, players' off-season regime. What do you and your coaches do during the off-season to, get better?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes in the off-season. It's always through two lenses. The first one is you do a deep dive and examine yourself, examine your team, how you're playing, the roster, sort of concepts that you could maybe build off of, things you want to take forward, things you want to strip away. That's everything from film to analytics. There's a lot of think tank work that goes on in the off season as it relates to that. The assistants get to come up with or bring up all the crazy ideas that they've had. And the second piece of it is you try to study others. The playoffs being first and foremost. I know that I watched a majority of the playoffs. You go back and you watch it on film and you start to study the teams that are in the position you want to be in. And what do they do well? What makes them good? What do I like that coach does? And try to take things from them. after watching those things, kind of projects and ideas usually spawn off of that. You're taking notes during it, and it's like, hey, I want to dive deeper on this concept. I want to take a closer look at this defensive scheme, this end of game concept that a team is running. And so it's always twofold. And then we have some meetings throughout the summer, and then as we get closer to training camp, we always have a little retreat where we all get together and try to crystallize everything and get on the same page, figure out what it is exactly that we care about right now, the things that we'll maybe table for later, and then what we want to get rid of, so that we're showing up to camp unified as a staff in terms of what the priorities are, and where we want our focus to be as we open camp.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
There's Will Hardy, head coach of the Utah Jazz, as the Jazz Media Day gets underway. DJ and PK, we are brought to you in part by Utah Roofing Pros, offering new installs starting at $49.95. Utah Roofing Pros, your premier roofing experts, serving Ogden to Provo for free inspection and pre-qualification. Visit utahroofingpros.com. More from Jazz Media Day in a moment.
Take the Zone